it back and watched. All right. So we're going live now, and I want to give you a brief introduction of who I am. I know some of you guys were here yesterday and sat through the session, but my name is Josh Brunty. I'm an assistant professor of digital forensics at Marshall University, right down the road here in Huntington, West Virginia, and a professor of digital forensics in our Department of Forensic Science, which is Digital Forensics and Information Assurance. So we do teach both sides of the spectrum here. I teach a intro to Linux to our undergrad students, a forensic image and video enhancement, intro to digital forensics, and the network forensics course. And one of the things I want to do today is to kind of give you a taste of what our network forensics course is like. It's a 400 level class, and I teach it a little bit differently than a lot of other programs teach it. So, meaning that, you take a lot of these courses and, they get into, okay, what's a firewall, what's this, what's that, it's very basic. We're going to go a little bit high level today. We're going to get a little deep into the weeds as far as packet capture is concerned. A little extension for you folks that were here yesterday for the Intro to Wireshark course. So hopefully you'll come out with some things that's beneficial to you. Just a plug on our program. We do have a BS degree in digital forensics and information assurance right down the road here. The certificate in information assurance is online. If for you distance learners who want to pick that up, we're putting and standing up in the process of putting a digital forensics certificate online. Those certificate credits can transfer into the bachelor's program, which is taught on site at the university. So, if you're kind of eager to pick this up more or get deeper into this, I would strongly encourage you guys to do it. To give you a background on me, though, and where I come from with this, back in my prior life, I was a digital forensics lab tech leader. With the Forensic Science Center, which is a state police lab based out of Huntington here. Was the tech leader, QA manager for a couple of years, which basically wrote manuals for our SOPs, and started out right out of college as an examiner. I did that for about 7-8 years before I started teaching. So finished up school and did that. I am also Bill Gardner's, who is also known as Ansi. I'm his #1 troll, and got him yesterday. Spilled pop all over him in his, or soda in his session yesterday, live on camera, so you can ride him on that one. And I was also once in the same building as he was as well. So if you see him, he's out there. Go out there and bug him. Tell him that you got to witness his #1 troll. Always try to put that in there. And I'm going to troll him today in our session too. So what you're going to need for this session, one of the things that I would recommend downloading is either Kali or Sift. I'm going to be using Sift today just because, we use Kali in so many other sessions. I want you to get a taste of, what I teach in our network forensics course, which is Sift. It's just an extension of Ubuntu. There's nothing super special about it, but it does have some stuff in it that makes Sift a little bit different from Kali. So if you do have Kali, you can run Kali and you can try this. It would be interesting to see, how some of these programs install. I didn't test it on both, but, certainly you can run Wireshark from Kali. We're going to be doing some stuff from Bash. We're going to actually be running some Bash scripts that I built for you. So if you were in the Bash scripting session yesterday, kudos, because you have a little bit better background knowledge. If you weren't, don't worry about it. I'm going to be passing off some scripts to you guys to use on your own discretion. You can modify them, you can rebuild them, you can put your own stuff in them. That's the beauty of Bash scripting. So I'll get to that hopefully towards the end of this session. And also, make sure you have a stable internet browser. One of the disclaimers I'm going to give to you, though, is that we're going to be dealing with some live malware. So I would strongly recommend pulling this down into Kali and not your Windows session. If you can, it's a zip file. Or turning your antivirus off, or you're going to be in this perpetual loop of antivirus keep taking over your files. What I've done is I've carved out an exploit kit for you we're going to go through today. So your antivirus, you'll see how good your antivirus is today. Let's put it that way. I pulled it down on my Mac. My Mac's like, I don't know what to do with this. It's like, and Windows, lit up like a Christmas tree, depending on what I did with it. So, just give you the disclaimer. I'm not going to, we're at a HackerCon. If your machine hoses, I'm going to deny all responsibility of it. It's not my fault. So, there's your link there to go after and get that. I'm going to go ahead and click on that and take you out to what is contained within that Dropbox link. And I'm going to go ahead and download it. Because it's not a small file, but hopefully it will download. Looks like it's kind of sitting out there. I'll figure out what it's going to do. Hopefully we can get that download. Let's see.
Is that the same as what was up there yesterday?
It looks like the same as what was up yesterday, but it should be different. Let me go back to Dropbox. Yeah, it should be different.
So get this new one as well?
Yeah, let me give you a Dropbox link here. So here's what you want to see. If you can. I believe it. Should take you directly to there, but let's see if I can.
Just curious, how long will that link be active?
I'll keep it up for 30 days. I think I have it set to expire in 30 days. So if you want to download these and play around with them. Oh, it's kind of so tiny, isn't it? So I don't know if you can see that. I'm having this projector's not scaling well, so let me start up a text file here. You should be able to. It should take you to this link. And you should be seeing a network forensics. Why that was doing what it was doing, but so the link that I gave you, if you can get to that link in the PowerPoint, then were you able to get a hold of it?
Oh wait,
it's a Bitly link.
Kali's. Oh, that's different than yesterday.
Yeah, this is a Kali Sift. So there should be two files in there. There should be a file called nuclear.zip.
Because that's not in the yesterday's.
No. But there is, yesterday's stuff is in today's stuff. So just kind of an FYI, you can, it's kind of an extension of. So this is what you should be seeing. A Kali Sift zip and a nuclear PC zip.
What was the link again?
Do we need the Kali Sift?
Put the link.
What's that?
We already have Sift. Do we need the Sift?
Yes, because it has the PCAPs. It's not really the actual operating system.
No, I know, but they're the same PCAPs from yesterday.
They shouldn't be.
Okay.
They should be different.
So both of those files are PCAPs?
Yeah, there should be PCAPs, a PowerPoint slide presentation, and a PDF.
All within the zip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So everything for you guys should be in there. That way, if you want to go back and reference to these, you have. The PowerPoint slideshow, it'll prompt the password. If you click on read only, it'll full screen for you, so you can kind of click through and follow along. If you're more into, I just want to read the PDF and just go through the slides, I also put 2 slides to a page on a PDF file as well. So you have variability on, as far as what you can access in regards to that. There is also in those files, I'll go ahead and pull down, I'm going to pull down the download myself to show you what's in there. So if you download, it seems to be a big file, and I don't know why it's such a big file, but shouldn't be extremely big. But for whatever reason, our network's kind of slowed up a little bit. You guys having trouble downloading that? It's slow, but it seems like mine's 72 megs, so it shouldn't be that big.
I just downloaded both files.
There we go. I'm on the guest network. It probably take a couple of minutes to bring that down, but what's up?
Especially with all
Hey, you can thank suddenly for it's a good internet connection. Don't get me wrong. The fact that we can pull down this amount of traffic and a conference like this, you don't normally run across something like this. So. Getting there. And then that second file, that nuclear file, there should be 4 files in that particular folder, I believe. Should be the nuclear PC. It should just be I think 3, maybe 4 files. They're just standard raw files. We'll get to those a little bit later. I'm going to go after this Kali Sift first. Kali Sift. He's crawling. The only reason I want to use the same files is I have so many different variations of these, so I want to run them exactly like you guys see them. Hopefully in about 20 seconds we'll be downloading. Are you guys getting those well? Is it good? Pulling down okay? Good.
Halfway.
So what we're going to do is once we get these files open, we're going to go ahead and set up Sift. I'm going to show you the process of setting up Sift. Show you some options in Sift, talk about some options that Sift has that Kali does not have, and some reasons that I teach that tool. I'm not going to get into super timelines because that's more for the forensic imaging side. If you're dealing with hard drives, you can timeline things, but certainly talking about that. Inside the Kali Sift folder, you should see 3 folders. There's that PowerPoint that I was talking about. I also put the Wireshark in there from yesterday. So you'll see there's a couple of PDF files that are in there and a PowerPoint presentation. The password is just it's standard password. You can crack it yourself if you want to. The challenge, but it should just display the screen. You really don't need a password to run these. The same thing with Sift. These presentations are up there. My presentation is going to look a little bit different from yours, and the reason that it looks different is that the answers of some of these problem sets are not in your PowerPoint, and the reason I did that, I use these live in class. So out of respect to the creators of the images, which I'll give some credit to here shortly, and the fact that you might have potential students one day, I'll definitely give you the answers up on the screen here, and they'll be in the videos as well. So, Another thing that's in there are two PCAP files. There's an evidence 1 and an evidence 2. We're going to go through evidence 1 first systematically and break that down. Totally different case, totally different scenario. Evidence 2 is the exploit kit, so it could get flagged as malware. We're going to look at that on one end as a PCAP file. I've also included cheat sheets in a folder called cheat sheets. This is the SANS Sift cheat sheet pages, which goes into how volatility, some of the memory acquisition tools, acquiring hard drives through DD. We're not going to really get into hard drive acquisition. That might be next year's topic. Actually, doing digital forensics in Linux, so we might get into some of those tools. Those are in there. Also put a second Sift cheat sheet, which goes into SleuthKit and Timeline. It does have a little bit of volatility stuff and creating super timelines. We're not really going to go into these today. It's just more like the more you know kind of deal. It's, if you want to jump into this more. I did put the cheat sheets from Wireshark and TCP dump yesterday, so if you want to get more into Wireshark, you're going back and watching the videos, I know there was a lot of people who came out of that session yesterday that were like, I want to learn more about Wireshark and get into it a little bit deeper. That cheat sheet is awesome. It really does a good job of breaking down some of the standard display filters which is the bread and butter of Wireshark. We'll do some more of this today. So I'm going to get a little bit deeper on breaking down traffic, assuming that most of you guys have a decently solid background in Wireshark from here. And the second file that I pulled down was a nuclear PC. Inside of that folder, there's a README file. I put that in there pretty much saying, this is malware. This is malware. It's a temp file with 3 files. This is by and far just an installed exploit kit that we've sandboxed into a box. We're going to do some malware analysis on that and see what comes back. So I'll be clearing that scenario through here, hopefully in the next little bit. So now, the next thing that I'm going to get to is I'm going to go ahead and start up Sift, and I'm going to go ahead and set it up and get it ready for some of the stuff that we're going to get ready to do. So, assuming that you've already downloaded Sift, one of the things that Sift does come with is just as a pre-built virtual machine, and you can go out and grab that particular image. It's about 2 gigs. If you really want to get it from me, I can copy this over and give it to you on a thumb drive. I think I brought my USB 3 thumb drive, so I can get it off to you really quickly during break. If you guys want to pick up on the next scenario, we can certainly do that. Or you can just download it and run it, or if you downloaded it yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm using VMware Fusion, and I know I already have Sift set up, and I'm just going to go ahead and go through the process of setting it up again for some of you guys that weren't here yesterday. So I'm going to import that particular file in, and that particular file is a OVF file. So it comes that way. So I suppose if you want to, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it Sift Network Forensics. It doesn't matter how you set these up. You can set them up in your own virtual machine. You can set them up in VirtualBox. But I am going to save that. I'm going to import it in. It is going to take a few seconds to import in. And while that is importing in, one of the things I'm going to go ahead and talk about is the logical succession that we run our network forensics course in, and how I'm going to ease you guys into this. In our network forensics course, the first thing that I teach our students coming in is TCP dump and Wireshark. And the reason being is they already have a solid Linux foundation, so then they start to get into, okay, let's look at deep packet level analysis. So they already understand that the network has 7 layers in it. And in each of those 7 layers, we have evidence that we can pull out. So from the physical layer, where you're going to have to figure out a way to inject yourself into that layer or extract evidence from that layer. And then in layers 2 and 3 and 4, you're looking at deep level packet analysis. And then 5, 6, and 7 is more application. So really, we're going to start to build looking at packets at a very low level. So we're going to start digging out based upon MAC address. Once we find the MAC address, we're going to find the IP address. Once we find the IP address, we're going to look at the browser, see what browser they're running, what type of services, what type of protocols, what was the suspect's traffic, what did it look like, and then start to carve out individual files that can help us in our investigation. And then, later on in the class, I get more into like email forensics and breaking down email headers, things that we've already carved out earlier in our packet captures, but then we get more into looking at the specific info with files. So we're going to do a lot today. I don't want to make it too... Okay. I'm starting to have a virtual machine in here. Thought I'd shut it down, but... I need to go back and I think shut a virtual machine down. I have one here, yeah, I have one already running. Knew something was up. This little laptop here doesn't get too kindly for it. I'll probably just kill this one off. Bear with me here. That's shutting down. So as soon as that shuts down, I'll start up this new one. All right. So Sift is built on an Ubuntu platform. Say what you want about Ubuntu, it does deal with drivers very well. That is one of the good things about Ubuntu. And the same way with Kali. Kali is in Debian and Ubuntu do very well with dealing with the drivers on certain PCs. Other Linux distros, you spend more time fighting with your drivers to install in virtual machines than you will actually getting to use it. Once I get Sift booted in, the standard password for Sift is forensics. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. Since this is a new box, I'm going to go ahead and do some apt-get updates. They come with all those cheat sheets that I did provide to you guys. I'll just go ahead and throw those away. Or you can put them in your own folder, but I like to just get rid of them. So I'm going to start up a terminal. I'm going to set it where you guys can see. So I'm going to go to Preferences. I'm going to up probably do about 25 so you guys can see this. Plus my eyes. It looks a little bit better. And I'm also going to change it over to a more hacker-esque color, right? Always green on black. It's my preferred. So I'm going to run an apt-get or apt-kit update before I grab the newest version of Wireshark. I need the sudo in order to do that. That's one of the drawbacks to Ubuntu as well is if you're working, it does not come with a pre-installed root account. You can elevate and de-escalate your privileges, but if you want to, you can enable a root account and then switch over to root if you want, or you can do a sudo -s and start up a new shell sudo. Looks like most of installs took okay. Keep in mind they still haven't updated Sift yet to show Wireshark version 2. Wireshark version 2's been out since the summer. I'm going to go ahead and update Wireshark after. So you have to update your Ubuntu, or have to update Sift before you can pull down the Wireshark update. So I'm going to go ahead and do a apt-get install Wireshark. So sudo apt-get install Wireshark. And I'm going to do the Qt version, which is a little more stable. There's really not a big difference. I'm not going to go into the differences between just Wireshark and Wireshark QT, but I usually grab the QT version for Sift.
Huh? What's the matter?
Come over here and get on
You've been in here
camera.
trolling.
Come over here. We're on camera. I want you to be in the video. Here, have
Wait.
Screw you! I have cooties now. Gross. Teach you such a thing. Well, at least it's interesting. It's fun.
Should have had one that was empty and super glued shut. Or
Next
leave
year.
some in there. Pretend to drink.
This is why I like hanging with you guys. You guys give me too many ideas. Just totally.
We'll make it happen.
Dave and I Facebook troll him all the time. We didn't even know we were Facebook trolling. We didn't even have met each other before this weekend. We were just bombarding him like crazy.
It was scary.
It is. Small world.
Small world.
All right, so now Wireshark should automatically be updated to version 2. Version 2 is a little more stable. It's easier to see. The capture filters are there. I just like dealing with it better than version 1. It cut out a lot of the nuances that version 1 had with it as far as limitations and capture filters and just the way things look on screen. So it did clean a lot of things up. You now have the ability in Wireshark 2 to capture USB traffic. So you can do USB debugging and capture traffic coming from a USB connection. It's kind of buggy. I haven't messed with it much, but I didn't talk about it yesterday. But you do have that ability. So I do have Sift updated, and now I'm just going to go to I'm going to pull those download folders. So I'm going to pull in the nuclear PC and the which one am I got to figure out which one I downloaded. It's the Sift. I know it's that one, but what's the other name of it? Trouble seeing it in here now. Let's pull that out. So I'll pull the nuclear PC file out and the Kali Sift. Let's do that. So, nice thing about virtual machines is you can copy and paste in. I do like that. So I'm just going to paste those 2 files in so I can work with them a little bit later on. So I should be seeing those files that I had earlier, and now I can see the cheat sheets and the PCAP files. So now we're ready to go when we get to that point of breaking down this packet traffic. We'll start to grab that as well. I'm assuming that you got to a point where you're using or have Sift or Kali set up to do what we're doing here. Get the slideshow mode. Getting this set up and then swiping back and forth. I've got a lot to. So hopefully I can. That might work. Yeah, that'll work. All right. So lab 1, we're going to essentially work with 2 labs and then a shell script. The first lab is going to just be a standard packet breakdown and file extraction. So it's going to be a build on what we did yesterday. We're going to be using evidence1.pcap for that one. The tools we're going to be working with is, I'm going to be running everything in Sift, but it's going to be Wireshark, ngrep, and Network Miner. Network Miner is a Windows utility, but I'm going to install it in Linux. So we'll go walk through the steps of installing Network Miner in Linux and what Network Miner entails, the things I like about it and the things I don't like about it. But it is a free tool and we do use it. ngrep and grep is awesome. I love grep. If you do not like grep, learn to love grep, because I don't know if you've seen, Windows 10 now supports bash. Bash lets you run grep expressions. If you are dealing with trying to import stuff into Ncase and FTK just to search for stuff, stop it and move over and start grepping things, okay? Because you can go against multiple databases, SQLite databases, pretty much anything that is read out in plain text, or anything that you would want to run expression-based searches on. Grep works really, really well, so we'll go through that. Lab 2 is basically an exploit kit investigation and analysis. So we're going to look at a live or at a running exploit kit, how it looked on the packet end, what the breakdown was of that, and then looking post-exploitation of the files that came off the dead box that was essentially attacked. We're going to be using evidence2.pcap and the nuclear PC files that are built on there. And then the lab number 3 is a program that I put together called System Scout, which I call SysScout. Built it for our CCDC team, for our CCDC qualifiers, so they can easily pull their commands a little bit easier. So hopefully we'll have enough time to get to that. We should. We're in here for 4 hours, but I'm trying to keep that under 4 hours so you guys can go out and play and pick locks and play Pac-Man and make some of these nice cool little name badges if you haven't done one yet. I made those last month. So some books that I would recommend using. One book that I really learned to love is the Wireshark 101 book. Laura Chappelle, if you haven't searched for any files or any videos of hers on YouTube, she's an excellent resource. She is like the Wireshark evangelist in the U.S. here. Her and Gerald Combs, Gerald Combs is basically the guy who built Wireshark, put together a lot of videos, and it's funny because I think Laura knows Wireshark better than Gerald does now, because she finds stuff that Gerald doesn't find. But they're both really good resources, very nice people, and they have a really good book with a bunch of labs in there that you can play around with. The second book I'd really advocate, I mentioned this yesterday, is Network Forensics, which is John Hamm, not the Jonathan Hamm from Mad Men, the Don Draper John Hamm. The Jonathan Hamm is the SANS instructor slash network forensics guy that does a lot of good things in our community as far as bridging the gap between information security and digital forensics. So he's kind of the middleman there. There's also, I never can say his name right. Is it Richard Beetlich? Or Beetlich? Is that how you say that? He's the guy from, is it Tau Security? Tau Security. This is a really good book. He gets really deep. It's network security monitoring, but if you go through and read the book, he gets into Network Miner in this book. So if you want to know more about Network Miner, pick up Richard's book. It's from No Starch Press. It's not hard to read. It's not hard to follow. It's a really easy read or easy pickup. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to go through in labs today come from one of these 3 books. So the files, little nuggets and pieces of information lab-wise is going to come from those 3 resources. That's why I want to get the credits due. Also, there's another site out there I didn't put in the PowerPoint, but you may want to look it up, is Malware Traffic Analysis. Malware Traffic Analysis is a really good site to pick up PCAPs, to look at exploit kits, look at malware, look at viruses. That's where I did a lot of my homework for this particular session. And a lot of my exploit kit breakdowns, I'll go out there and search. SANS instructor, I believe his name's Paul Duncan, puts that together. Is the guy that, I'll have to look that up during break. But he's a really good resource to go after. They're full of PCAPs, full of files that are really good resources for this kind of stuff. So, another thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to install Network Miner in Sift. You can try this in Kali. Disclaimer, I don't know if it'll work or not. But one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to try to copy and paste this out to go through the process of installing. Let's see if I can do this. I'll go ahead and pull it up on this screen so we can. Cannot remember all of these commands. So there's a lot of commands in here to get from point A to point B. I don't know about you. I'm losing my. If I were like 20 years old again, I would probably remember these. But I'm going to run through all these commands, and so I'm going to swipe back over into Sift. Hopefully. So let me fire up terminal. So the first thing I'm going to do is a sudo apt get install. Let's do a libmono dash win forms 2.0 dash CIL. And you do have the PowerPoint, the PDF, all those steps are in there, so you can copy and paste them out. So it should install that. That's mono Ubuntu, by the way. What that will do is that should work in Kali Linux. Now, that gives us the ability to run, should let us run a Windows-based program in Kali or Sift. I like it better than Wine. I prefer it better than Wine. It's a little more stable, but any Debian-based OS should run it. All right. Now I'm going to run a wget, and let's do a www.net.com. Probably should copy these. And let's do download equals network miner. That probably needs to be capitalized since Linux is case sensitive in most cases. I haven't tried it non-case sensitive. I'm going to run a dash capital O. And I'm going to install this into the TMP folder, the temp folder, and we'll put nm.zip. So we'll actually download it into a temp folder as a zip file. Hopefully that will take. And it looks like, yes, it's going to install. So once we grab that zip file, we'll run a chmod on it to change the privileges, and then we'll actually do a CD into the folder, get it prepped, and get it ready to run. So now after that installed, I'm going to do a CD into that. Let's do an opt. Let's unzip that first. Sorry, missed a step there. So let's do a sudo unzip TMP. So we'll unzip that TMP in nm.zip -d, and then we'll do an opt. For whatever reason, this is not saving the full screen. So that unzipped the network miner folder. Now I can CD, I'm going to change directory into that opt.networkminer. You need to capitalize that. So we'll do network miner, we'll do a star so it can find it. I gotta find it on the keyboard. There we go. So now we're in that network miner folder. I'm going to run a sudo this and do a chmod. The chmod will run +X, so we'll make it executable. We'll get able to run, and we'll run network miner.exe. We'll run another chmod, and this time I'm going to run -R. So I'm going to take away the read privileges. I'm going to go with go +W. This is a lot of steps here, but this is one of those one-time things. Network miner.exe. -R. Let's do another of that, and I'll go -W. I need to run. Should just copy and paste that. I want to run assembled files. That should be okay. And then let's run our last one, which is the captures. Which is that one there. And I probably need to change my privileges back because it looks like I changed network miner. So I need to do a +X. Let's see what. I think I made a boo-boo there. Yeah, let's do an LS. You don't have to do this. This is just me being me. I'm not paying attention to my. Check my privileges there. Let's do an LSL. I should have said in the intro to Linux class yesterday. Yeah, I should be okay. So, just checking privileges there. Now, I should be able to, once I've installed that, I should be able to run Network Miner after that install. And I don't know if you guys can run that now. See if we can get it to run. Yep. We'll run it after break. So we just want to get to the point where it's actually running, and at least it's installed. So it is in there. Okay, so we're good to go now. We'll go back and run that here in a little bit. Do you guys have trouble with that? I know that's a lot of steps to go through, but I copied them out for you. That should set it to the point where it's stable. So we'll get back and running that. Probably take a break here in about 10 or 15 minutes and go back and if you had any issues with it, actually making sure you install it, got a point of running.
The only problem would be if you guys run now, it may not be able to get that lid.
It should have pulled down. Did you guys?
It came up and it said that it was said the packet was missing, it had been obsolete, it was available from other stores. I mean,
Yeah, they suggested, Monodev. That's what I'm
Monodev.
Did you install it?
In process. It's still, it takes a while to download. And then
Well, you know, the worst case scenario in this, if you can't get it to run in Linux, just run it in Windows. There's a Windows download for this. If you go out and search out for Network Miner, you can pull down the exe and run it in Windows. The only reason I do this is because it is Linux, and I just want to keep everything contained because we are dealing with potential malware. I don't want to hose my Windows machine, so I want to keep everything contained. Within my Linux session. So hopefully you got to so we should be able to, if we run now, since I'm looking at my steps here to make sure I missed everything, you should be able just to run mono and network miner .exe. So if you just type in mono network miner.exe, it should fire up Network Miner 2.0 in Linux. So that should run okay now. I know that's a Windows only utility, and that's just to my best of my knowledge. There's a lot of different Windows you can run Wine or whatnot, but I'm not a big fan of Wine myself. I just never have been. Probably maybe one day they'll court me back, but I would rather run something through mono. If you're running Fedora or Arch or anything like that, you can do the same thing. You'll just have to run like Pacman or Yum if you're running a different version of Linux to pull that down. But a lot of the same steps will work. Okay, so now that I have Network Miner running, I have Wireshark downloaded, updated, uninstalled, and updated. Now I'm kind of ready to start digging deep into the packets themselves. So what I'm going to do is, this would be a good point if you need to go to take a bathroom break. We'll just go ahead and pause, and we'll do set a stopping point here, and then we'll start diving into this Ann's little secret packet investigation, because I need to go to the bathroom. So we'll take a break. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my PCAPs on my desktop just to make things a little bit cleaner, and be able to change over to that directory. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is kind of set the stage for, what kind of evidence are we looking at here? So this first lab, let me see if it will. So this is one of Jonathan Ham's labs that we go through in class. It's one of the first labs I give in network forensics. And just to set the stage, after being released on bail undercover, which is a wonderful name, she's disappeared. But fortunately, investigators were carefully monitoring her network activity, because that always happens, right? Before she skipped town. It's believed that Ann may have communicated with her secret lover, Mr. X, before she left, says the police chief. Packet capture may contain clues to her whereabouts. So I'm going to give you some background knowledge on what we're looking at here. So our internal network is going to be a 192.168.30 from a range of 0 to 24. So it's a really small scope of IPs here that we're going to be looking at. So that's a good thing starting out. We also have a DMZ here. DMZ is going to be a 10.30.30.0. So if you see any IPs in there, from a range of 0 to 24, that's going to be anything in the outer bounds of the DMZ. As far as the internet, anything with a 172.30 IP is going to be essentially internet-based traffic. So if you're trying to do any kind of whois information, or you want to go out and do some whois, this is just one of those reserved subnets for non-routable traffic. So yeah, you will get a whois result back, but it's going to be nothing, because it's a fake IP basically. So whois searches aren't going to do us much good in this particular scenario anyway. So we're going to pull in that evidence1.pcap and break it down. But first, we've been provided, and I'm going to go ahead and provide you with the laptop Mac of the device that's already been seized, and that's 00221704D4FAE. So we do have a MAC address in hand right now. So that is one of the big steps and big hurdles that we've already cleared. Sometimes that's hard to attribute traffic to a particular MAC just because you're dealing with a big number of packets. So that's good for our part. So this is what we're going to try to find. We're going to provide any aliases or addresses that may have been used by the suspect. Who did she communicate with? So any email addresses or any other identifying information that she might have, and any type of conversations that she may have had with another person. And did she transfer any files of interest? So this is what we're going to go through of how to get files of interest out of a packet capture, which is a good option to go through. And any indicators of her whereabouts. So this is more of, we have a packet, we're going to give intel back to law enforcement or whoever on all of these factors here. So I'm going to shift back over to Sift now, and I'm going to start back in the terminal, and I'm going to, since I put those packets onto my desktop, we're going to be working with evidence1.pcap. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to run ngrep. I'm going to do a simple, what I call dirty word search, which we already have some terms that we can search against. We have names, so a name's a good place to start. So I'm going to run ngrep, And right after encrypt, I'm going to put in quotations and or covered. It's kind of hard to see because it's cut off there. Apologies there, it's so big. So after and or cover in quotes, I'm going to put a capital N. And you can go through and read the options. I'm going to do a T, a Q, and let's do an uppercase I option as well. So we'll run against the interface of evidence, the file of evidence1.pcap. So ngrep and or cover in quotes with the options of dash capital N space dash undercase T, lowercase q, uppercase I for the packet. So this particular PCAP here, if I run this, it's going to give me quite a bit of stuff here. So it's all going to output to screen. So I know it's really, really big, but right away, I already see some stuff that might be of interest to me. So what this does is ngrep is kind of the grep, network grep for packet captures. It's wonderful. It's great. Because in this case, I can go into any packets that mention the name and or cover. That's our name. Well, right there we have, looks like an AOL email address. And you see a lot of MIME transfers with the subject of need a favor. So we have some possible emails to dig into. If you're dealing with any kind of MIME transfers there, what does MIME tell me? Anybody want to take a stab at that? If I have any kind of MIME or anything in HTML, what might that tell me about a particular email transfer? Not really. What does MIME suggest? It could have been, it's an HTML format. It could also, by looking at this, it has rich text in it. If you go through and dig through all these, you're going to find that we possibly have a, not just email that's being transferred here, but we also have attachments on the email that's being transferred. So we're going to look a little bit deeper into that and extract possibly an attachment from this email. But more importantly, I have a lot of stuff that's already telling me things. So I have a dark tangent at gmail.com. So it looks like they're communicating with a dark tangent at gmail.com. So there's a couple of nuggets of information. But most importantly, one of the parts that's I'm going to focus on in these is that we were communicating over specific IPs here. So it tells me that it came from a 192.168.30.108. So that tells me that the source IP was going out to 192.168 to a 64.12.168.40. So we can follow up on that, but there's a really good indication that Undercover's IP for her PC is going to be this 192.168.30.108. So one of the easy ways, if you have a bunch of like keywords that you want to search for, you can set up pipelines. So if you want to search for like AN, AOL, email, you can string keywords together and search them out through ngrep. So if you have PCAP files and you want to extract certain words from them, ngrep is lovely to do that with. So we have a lot of information here, specifically email. So we were able to show that all of these packets are coming from 192.168.30.108. So that's a good starting point for us here. So I'm going to leave that open, but now I'm going to go in and open up that same packet transfer, or that same packet capture, in Wireshark. So I can, let me clear that out. So I'm just going to run a sudo Wireshark so I have my menu options. Oh, it's not seeing the desktop. Okay. Not a big deal. We'll open capture. So I'm going to open that packet capture. need to dig out to my desktop. So I'm going to open up evidence 1, open up evidence 1, not evidence 2. Why it went after evidence 1? Evidence 1.pcap. Let's open this up in Wireshark. So it doesn't matter if you're in Kali, you're in Windows, you're in Mac. At this point, we're going to be looking in specifically in Wireshark. So roughly here, if I know it's cut off a little bit, so on the projector, but down at the bottom, it looks like we have about 2,400 packets. I know it's cut off a little bit, but about 2,480 packets we're looking at in this particular transfer. So the first thing I want to do is I want to see what addresses and what IPs were allocated to what devices. And the first thing that I can look for in that is I can search for the NetBIOS. So I'm going to look for NBNS traffic. And what does NBNS traffic even suggest? What is that indicative of? Anybody know? So NBNS does what for you networking folks? It's basically the query out that registers through NetBIOS and allocates the IP, right? So I can sift out a lot of that traffic right away and see what work group and what domains connecting to what and what addresses are being allocated to what devices. Another way I can do that is just filter out DHCP traffic. But to me, it's a lot easier to see, okay, let's see who went out and actually queried what and registered what. So you can see here in NetBIOS, we had a registration of an AND laptop that was registered and was allocated the source IP of 192.168.30.108. So there's a couple of things we can do here. We can look and see, all right, well, I can start there or I can dig a little bit deeper into this. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper in regards to figuring out what IP address is allocated to AND. So I'm going to be 100% sure here. And I'm also going to examine what we call the bootstrap protocol. In this case, the bootstrap protocol is going to be, I'm going to run a filter, since we know her MAC address, I'm going to run an ETH.ADDR, and I'm going to type in her MAC address. And I cannot remember that off the top of my head, so you guys can copy it in if you want. But, so I'm going to do a 00, and I can put colons in between those. So I'm going to do a 0021, 70, 4D, 4F, AE. And that's her MAC address. I can go ahead and run that filter, and you can see now that I got the filter 2047 displayed on that filter. But I'm going to go a little bit deeper. I'm going to look at the bootstrap protocol here. So I'm going to look at what we call the boot P, the boot protocol, to see. So I'm going to run and BOTP. So I'm going to run the boot protocol and hit enter. And what that's going to do is that's going to look at DHCP requests and acknowledgments out to the specific DHCP server. In this case, 10.192.168.30.10. So there were 3 requests sent for DHCP and a DHCP acknowledgement that essentially allocated whatever device this was an IP address. So we know this MAC address got an IP address from this DHCP server from that boot protocol. So I'm going to dig into the Ethernet here. And you can see that matches. It's a Dell MAC address matching our MAC address that I gave to you guys earlier. So I verified that DHCP allocated her an IP address of 192.168.30.108. We're 100% sure that this is our culprit here. That's her IP address. So there's one bit of information out of the way. Okay, so you may want to make a note of that, because we'll go back to that a little bit later. All right, so now since we have an IP address, the next thing that I want to do is I want to just look at the traffic and just see what we're up against. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that filter out. And I want to look in this traffic capture. So either I can limit out the traffic on stuff that we already know, or I can just look at the overall encompassing traffic. So let's do this. Let's go to Statistics. And let's see. Let's go to Protocol Hierarchy. I love this part here. So this breaks down, and this gives us an overall scope of what we're looking at here. So you can see here that 100% of our traffic is going to be Ethernet. That's going to be a given. So everything's coming over Ethernet pipe here. That's not a big shocker there. We've already dug out a lot of bootstrap stuff to see, who was allocated what IP. So everything down to here, we're pretty good. We have, but we want to start getting into TCP traffic now. What do you see right here, right under TCP? I see a simple mail transfer protocol. What's that tell me? We have email here. So if you're ever dealing with a packet capture and you see any type of simple mail transfer protocol, you have some sending email going on here. 10.8% of the packets transferred in this comes back to the SMTP protocol. Means that is email that was sent by our suspect. 303,146 bytes are allocated to that. So we have a lot of data in SMTP we can card from. We also have an IMAP, Internet Message Access Protocol. What's that tell me? So if SMTP is the sending protocol, what does IMAP suggest? It's the receiving protocol. So we have usually two protocols that we're up against. Internet Message Protocol tells me that they're using IMAP to receive the email. You may find POP. If they're using POP3, rarely you'll run across people using POP3 these days, even on phones. But if they're using POP, that suggests that email's being downloaded. So at least we know that email's being transferred. And we have some HTTP traffic in here as well. So we have PNG graphics, some JPEG graphics. We have quite a bit of stuff in here. But the thing that catches my eye here is the SMTP stuff. So now that I know that we're up against SMTP, let's card for that. So I'm going to right-click in that, and I'm going to apply that as a selected filter. And guess what we have now? We have all of our SMTP traffic. So we can close that menu out now. And now I get to see the email that was transferred. The easiest way to start here, so the only filter we're setting there is an SMTP filter. That's as simple as that. Now we have email traffic. But I want to go to that first packet, which should be like 1571 after you set that filter. And before we get into that filter, I don't know if you guys can see it, but about down in packet 1577, you see a user and a pass there? You're going to see the inherent vulnerabilities of SMTP. There is really no inherent encryption or built-in controls in SMTP. And this is why you really should hold email close to the heart or do some really good things with it, because sometimes they put some stuff right out there for the picking. So you can see here, and laptop, she's the one who connected here. But I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to do let's do a follow TCP stream here. Now remember from yesterday, blue indicates what? What traffic does that tell me here? Remember, blue tells me that it's coming from where?
Incoming.
It's incoming, it's received traffic. The red traffic is the pipe going up. I'm going to come down here to this right under auth login. There's a C25 1YWT. I want you to right-click that, or or highlight it, right-click it, and copy it. I'm just going to go back into the terminal here, and I'm going to run a quick little command here. Actually, we're going to do some echo commands. So I'm going to do echo, and I'm going to put that in quotes, and I'm going to paste that value that I just pulled out of there. And close it in quotes. I'm going to do a space, and I'm going to set a straight up and down pipeline. So a pipeline, remember it takes the input of one command and outputs it to another. So it's right above, I believe it's enter on most machines. And I'm going to run a base 64 encoding on that. So I'm going to type in base 64-D. All right, now if you're running SANS, it's going to look really odd. But notice here we have a sneaky geeky that pops up. What is that? That's their username. That is their username that was put in, encoded in base 64. Hold tight, it gets better. Down here, right under Sneaky Geeky, there's another CZAWC. If you're looking at that stream, I want you to copy that out, and I want you to run that same command again, except inside the quotes here, I want you to copy and paste that value, that second value. Base 64 encoding here. No encryption. Oh, did I not close it out in the quotes? What did I do? I didn't erase it all, did I? I thought I erased it. Let me go ahead and put that in there. I believe it should take now. Yep, there it is. It concatenated onto the end there. What is that? That's their email password. Base 64 encoded right in the packet capture.
Spelling secret.
Super secret. Love that, right? Yeah, that's a. But there's your password. So now you're looking at low-hanging fruit. For a person that does forensics, I can tell you that humans are apt to using the same password over and over and over again. If you can get low-hanging fruit, if you can get the SMTP password for an AOL account, try that password against Windows. Try that against other bigger, more highly encrypted services. You should, in most cases, most people, especially if they're using special characters like that, that's probably what they call their hardened password. So that's going to be something that we can use later on. That's good to pass off. So now we have their password. That's a hard way to do it. I'm going to show you an easier way to do it here in a couple of minutes. But that's a good starting place here. So that's just looking at the SMTP traffic. I'm going to go down that SMTP stream even more. So you can see the whole part that they've logged in, and they got an email from an interoptic at AOL.com. And if you look down, you can start to read. You can see a message ID. And you can see that an email was sent from her, which is sneakygeeky at AOL.com, out to an interoptic at AOL.com. And you can see that this is a multi-part message in MIME format, meaning that this may have an attachment onto it because it's HTML email. But here's the subject of the email. It says, hey, can you hook me up with that fake passport you were taking about? So there's even some misspells in there. So now she's asking for fake passports. Probably not, pretty incriminating there, if something would suggest that. But there's our SMTP transfer. That's the email that she sent. So now I'm going to search for IMAP, which is the stuff that she received. So we just looked at stuff that Ann sent. Let's look at stuff that she received. I'm going to just type in IMAP at the top because that's the filter we're going to run. I'm going to right click. I'm going to do follow TCP stream. Okay, so you're going to see a little redundancy in there maybe. And Wireshark's not the best to deal with this, but we'll see what we can dig out of here. It looks like she logged in again, and there's her password in plain text again. So we know it didn't even encode base 64 here. They just put it right out there. So passwords are everywhere in this thing. It's kind of crazy. So the inherent vulnerabilities of SMTP, IMAP, and POP, it's crazy. It really is. So it looks like at least we have some sent email, but we're going to dig a little bit deeper and try to get that, see if we can get this file that maybe that she sent or received. So I can dig, I can start working with, pulling out particular files or not. But the thing I'm going to do next is I'm just going to dump this whole series of files, export the objects, and I'm going to export all the HTTP objects and just see what I find. You can see it looks like she went out to maybe has some favorites set as /dot or whatever. But I just want to see what pictures she has and if there's any files that Wireshark picked up on. So I'm going to save all. If I click on Save All, I can create a folder on the desktop, and I'll just call this AN Export. And I should be able to open up and save all to that. Should have saved now. I don't like the fact the way they export the objects here doesn't tell you that it actually did it. You just have to assume that it did export the files. And sometimes if you get that error command, it doesn't tell you that. And you end up doing it twice and you end up screwing it up. So let's look through these files and see what we find. So I exported them out, going to File, Export Objects, all of the HTTP objects that it can find in this packet. So there's a couple of things that it might tell me. Here, yeah, maybe. No, not a whole lot here. Not something that I can hang my hat on at the end of the day. So we're kind of dead ending with Wireshark at this point. We got a password, we got email, we got an IP, we verified the MAC address, we got the computer name. So let's hang it up with Wireshark at this point, and let's fire up Network Miner and bring in that packet capture. So I'm going to go to File and go to Open, and I'm going to pull in that evidence1.pcap into Network Miner, and it'll process it for you. Now, say what you want about Network Miner. A lot of people have issues with it, and it does do some really weird stuff as far as decoding, but it's good. It really is. For a free tool, it only handles a certain amount of files, but yes, sir.
One of the biggest suggestions against it is that the script pretty cool.
It is, but
I'm saying it. I'm not saying it's bad. It's like Armitage Minister.
it is. I said that yesterday, didn't I? I said it was the Armitage of network forensics, but keep in mind, it did decode those emails for us. I'm not a big fan for people staying away from tools because the coolness factor. I mean, you can see here's our emails that were sent, and it said there's another that she had sent to Dark Tangent. I can't do lunch next week, heading out of town another time. So we saw that in the transfer. And then there's another one out to Mr. Secrets at AOL. I believe it's AOL. Yeah, it's at AOL.com. So it's like, hey, bring your fake passport in a bathing suit, address attached. So down here, we have a file that's called secretrendezvous.docx. Do you guys see that? It is the last email that was transferred in that packet capture. So it should have carved out secret rendezvous for us as part of that MIME attachment. That's what we were seeing earlier. So you can see there that secret rendezvous file. I'm going to go ahead and right-click it in this session. I'm going to go ahead and open that file. And you can see here that that was a Word file with an image embedded into it. It's a Google Maps image for the Playa del Carmen, which is one of the questions we were asking. Is there any indication of her whereabouts? If you find a file, and you may find something like this, that's pretty indicative. Hey, this is where the girl's at, or at least a good suggestion of that. There's a couple of other things you can look at in Network Miner as well. You can see the hosts that were transferred, what type of machine. Beware, it does misread a lot of these transfers. It'll show that it's from a Linux machine and it's actually from a Windows machine. So it doesn't do a great job of picking up what type of OS that's being transferred here. Any files, all those files that we dumped out earlier, Wireshark does not export Word documents. So keep in mind, it only works with images and JavaScript and stuff that it can read. So like that secret rendezvous file, it never picked up and never exported. So that's why I advocate using other tools like Network Miner or grepping if you think that there's attachments in the emails. So we can also look at credentials here. There's a couple of different types of credentials that we can search against. This basically is her login to its HTTP cookies, but her SMTP username right there and password were automatically decoded because they're just base 64. So I just decoded those and put them under credentials. Any DNS or sessions that she happened to run against. So it's not really important in this part of it, but it does show like a timeline of when sessions began and ended. So if you're doing timeline investigations, it's a good place to start. Any kind of parameters. So if you're wanting to dig by user agent, if you're trying to, attribute to a specific browser, we talked about that yesterday in Wireshark. That's a good place to start. If you're going to court and a person saying, well, I didn't do this. Well, if you have a MAC address, an IP address, and if you have the computer in hand that they've done forensics on, and they found that a lot of the traffic and a lot of the temp files going out to this site matches what you're finding in the packet capture, you can also say, okay, they were using this particular browser here. And keep in mind, this is Firefox 3.5.2. It all says Mozilla at the beginning, so it doesn't mean that they're always running Firefox. The Mozilla 5.0 can also suggest that that's IE or Chrome or anything. It just tags that way. You can also, another neat thing you can do in Miner as well is you can go over here to keywords and you can run basically, the only drawback is you have to reload the case file to do a keyword search. I'm going to search for Undercover's name, so I can just add it to that particular queue and search against it. Looks like it's in there. Did not search. I don't know why I did that. Should have done a search against that keyword. Yeah, I guess it doesn't search compound keywords, but that's what ngrep comes in very handy for. But Network Miner will let you search for that as well. So that's a good option if you're just wanting to do some quick dirty word searches and you have a relatively small PCAP file. The only drawback to Network Miner is it only accepts a finite number of packets before it goes to the paid version. The paid version is like $800, but if you're looking at a specific capture of packets, you can go back to Wireshark and set a filter and then export out your filtered PCAP file back into, back into another PCAP, and then pull that PCAP into Network Miner. So we have there about 250. Okay. So going back, so any online aliases. So what online aliases did she have in this case? What was her AOL username? That would have been the key element there that we could have passed off, which is sneaky deaky. That's one that you would pass off to an investigator to say, hey, this is something you need to follow up on a little bit more. Who did she communicate with? Well, there were email addresses that were in that particular packet capture, which was dark tangent, interoptic. All of those email addresses that we found in that specific SMTP conversation was basically the emails that she had sent stuff to. The conversation, extracting those contents, we could extract out any of those streams that we wanted to, put those in a report. We could take a screenshot of that TCP flow there, that particular conversation filter. So that's something that we can do. And did she transfer any files of interest? Yes, she did. She actually transferred a file or received a file or a Word document that was basically telling where the secret rendezvous was going to be. So and that leads to the last question, which was the indicator of her whereabouts, which was Playa.com, which is in that particular Word file. So that's just a standard packet investigation if you have that kind of data. So this shows that you're not just limited to dealing with specific packet stuff. So this is the first lab that they take in network forensics at Marshall. And we build upon that. We get into more wireless labs. We get into digging out user agents and browsers to attribute to a specific user. So I have one lab that I give them where you have like 16 users come in and have the same IP, and then they leave, but there's one IP in there where they sent like this really threatening email, and they have to like limit it out to this one specific packet that suggests, hey, they're the person that sent this incriminating email. So it's all about digging and digging and digging down into these packets to try to find something that's of value to you. Any questions on that? Well, I know you guys want to, I think that's probably a point that we'll actually take a breather for a couple of minutes, and before I pick up on this exploit kit. The way it's looking, I don't know if we'll go into 5 or not. It's attrition is starting to set in. I think the room keeps getting smaller and smaller, so I don't want to kill you guys working. But this next session, this is where we start breaking down the exploit kit. So I think this might help you a little bit as far as dealing with this stuff in your own network, if you ever get hit with this. So we'll take about 5, 10, and then we'll pick back up into this EK breakdown. Yeah, we should be able to get over there.
You're recording.
Oh. All right, so I'm going to jump into Lab 2 here, which is kind of it's a breakdown of the nuclear exploit kit. And I don't know, I'm going to give you a little bit of background in regards to exploit kits. I know you've heard of them, you see them in the news. They're becoming really, really popular now in regards to attacking certain machines. They're really heavily involved as far as propagating ransomware and whatnot. But the thing about the get back to the actual part here. There we go. So, just to answer what is exactly an exploit kit and what constitutes an exploit kit. And usually an exploit kit is a series in a almost like a bombardment and pieces of malware that are passed along in some way, shape, or form through some type of user intervention. I'm not going to get into the background, but it's basically looks for what we call security holes in certain software applications. So let's just say, we have an outdated version of Adobe Reader, or we're using, an older version of Microsoft Office with a remote scripting function. There's so many different ways that we can push an exploit kit and even, prey upon a user to get it to install on a specific machine. Most of the time, these kits, they come with pre-written exploit code. They target users that are running outdated or insecure or unsecure software and those particular applications on their computer. So sometimes we can run these exploits. They don't even know that the exploit's running against them. So that's one of the bad things about an exploit kit. I'll give you a, if you're going through the process, or if you're in an organization and this kit is deployed, the procedure usually goes like this. So you normally have either a normal website redirects to a malicious website, or you have a compromised website. In most cases, you guys remember last year that WordPress was hit pretty hard with this. There was a lot of vulnerabilities in WordPress. So you had businesses from, that were selling leggings to churches who were serving malware and not even knowing it. So to give you a quick story on this, I got a call last year from a legal firm around here in town, one of the largest legal firms in the state. And they said, hey, we keep getting this ransomware installing on our machines. This ransomware, we just cannot scrub it off of our machines. So, I went down there. The IT guy's like scratching his head. He has no idea of where to even begin with this. And no, Microsoft. He has no idea where to begin in trying to figure out where this ransomware is coming from. So we start looking, and we find out that most of the time that the characteristics of this ransomware was usually reported by the users when they were browsing on the web. So he would clean it off, scrub it, make sure it was clean of malware, deploy it back in the environment. 2 days later, the same person's called, they've been hit again. Ransomware downloads, starts encrypting files, and you get that Bitcoin, okay, submit, $500 will decrypt your files. You've seen that kind of ransomware. So couldn't figure it out. So finally we got to the point, I'm like, okay, well, that machine that keeps getting hit, let's set up a packet capture and just see what happens. So he scrubs the machine, he sets the packet capture back up. Lo and behold, in this whole series, what happened was their own website had been compromised with an EK. So they were running on an outdated version of WordPress. So every time someone visited this portion of the website, they were downloading the exploit kit and it just kept propagating this particular exploit kit. They had no idea that their web server had been compromised, or they would have been going through this same scenario over and over again. This is why multiple users are getting hit. So, this is why this kind of stuff is important, because, you may be in a situation where you can't figure out where this exploit's coming from. But in most cases, what happens is the contact is made with a specific site. The traffic is either redirected or you have a malicious advertisement. The exploit server kit then contacts the server and then downloads, whether it be ransomware or banking Trojan or any type of malware. So you're looking at rootkits to ransomware. You just do not know what gets packed in these exploit kits. What I've found in exploit kits that I've studied over the past year is that they all pretty much carry the same characteristics. They have the same backbone. It's just little nuances, little things are different about these. So once you figure out how to investigate one, then you can kind of work and investigate another. So that's what I want to talk about today. So this is a good article here. Antivirus fails to stop ransomware 100% of the time. You're going to find that here shortly. The antivirus does a really, really poor job of dealing with ransomware and exploit kit. It doesn't know how to read them. There's so many factors that come into play. But think about how antivirus scans a network. So what does antivirus do? How does it pick up that malware is on your network? And where does it scan it? Think about this. Why is ransomware failing to stop 100% of the time? What's that?
You mean AV?
AV. Why are we at this point? I mean, why, you go into a business and you think, okay, we have antivirus, we should be good. If an exploit kit hits us, the antivirus should detect that, it should either quarantine that or delete it. But it's not happening. And what we're finding is just the downfall of antivirus, which is we're just scanning against for headers. We're looking for specific signatures of files. We're looking at hashes of files, things that newer viruses and newer worms, they just can't detect anymore. So, putting all of your eggs in a basket and saying, okay, antivirus is going to stop this, or our firewall is going to stop this, or our IDS is going to stop this. We have a Palo Alto. We have a Blinky light box. We have all this. We'll be fine because we threw a lot of money at it. No, you're not. It's going to happen. What do you do at this point when you're getting bombarded with an attack? Do you know how to dig into the packets and find exactly what you're looking for? And that's what we're going to do today. This has happened. This just happened back on the 8th. An Indiana county government shut down. They paid up ransomware. Taxpayer dollars sent to whatever service to get their files decrypted. Wow. And this is not just this is a larger county government. You had Indiana State Police there. And in the article, I found it was kind of odd, and I gave you it's Ars Technica article there. I found that Indiana State Police was being interviewed on this, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a county government. Why is ISP in this particular interview? So they obviously were affected as well, which kind of flew under the radar. So not only county, but state was affected. But it just kind of irks me that county governments are just paying out taxpayer money because of ransomware. And, I mean, think about this. We're paying I pay $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 a year in my county for taxes. And they're just paying up for ransomware when, that could have been spent somewhere else. I don't know. It's just me. But it's just odd that we're not paying more attention to this, or, putting the awareness out there. Hey, we need to stop this. And we need to be able to do something if we were to be breached like that, to stop it before it gets too deep into our network and starts really wreaking havoc to our backup files.
So Indiana, the state police responded because the primary fusion center does the threat intelligence for all this county.
Okay.
That's why they responded.
I'm not talking about responding. I'm talking about the office.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the article, they were talking about being down for those specific number of days. So in the way that it read to me, that they had a presence in that county courthouse, as do a lot of courthouses. I don't know if I know in Cabell County where I live, you have the prosecutor, you have probation offices, you have like 15 different departments that congregate into that courthouse, but they all feed in the courthouse network. And they had a backup server went down a couple of years ago, and it just pretty much crippled the entire operation of that courthouse. So, I mean, you wouldn't think a courthouse network would be a big deal if, it gets hit with malware, but obviously, they really, it was tough for them to recover from it. So, yeah, that's one of those things where, strong backups, there's just, that's a different talk for a different day. But, we're getting hit with these. You see them pop up in the news, and state agencies are the major culprits. It's not our end users at home who are experiencing this at a large level. It's people at the government agencies, and that's, this crippled that agency for a couple of weeks, apparently, until they scrubbed the exploit kit out and whatnot. So I just want to bring in another lab here to break down these exploit kits. So let's just say you're DC-based company. We'll call it Clinton Incorporated. So we have a SOC here at Clinton Incorporated. Obviously, it's not real. We have an analyst who received a call from a Billy Gardner, who is the executive assistant for the chief executive officer, William Billy Clinton. Don't get him confused there, at the UK office. We have a presence in the UK. While searching for a tasty steak dinner location for his boss, Billy described the computer as acting funny and files inaccessible, which is a telltale sign that maybe something's up. He also stated that the desktop wallpaper had been changed and said something about ransom and paying up. So not a good sign here. This is what we're dealing with. So just a nice little picture of, there's Billy in the background there, who's the executive assistant, who's the assistant to this guy right here. I just try to get through that without, intention. But
no press.
Awesome. So at the same time, one of the other analysts is investigating a snort alert that came in at that very same time. Did any of you guys use snort or Circata at all? So yeah, snort. So this will be really good to show how snort works here. But another analyst at that very same time had a snort alert that came in, and they, fortunate for us at that location, they also have full packet capture. So we'll assume that we were able to grab something from TCP dump, from the associated IP address that it came in through. Now, we've been asked to take a look and determine what exactly happened and what we must do to mitigate further damage to the company's network. So first things first, we're going to check the other analyst's report. Now, remember, we have that snort alert that we were given. So we do have an alert that something happened in our network, and I'll follow up on that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back over to Sift now. Maybe. Give it a second there. It doesn't recover well from the slideshow. I'm going to go ahead and just minimize Network Miner, but I'm just going to go ahead and open up Evidence 2 in Wireshark. So we're dealing with about 3,100 packets in this particular file, and I'm going to break it down first, though, before we move any further. And I just want to show how poorly this happened. So I'm going to go out and show you how antivirus deals with this, and why I'm even talking about this in this session. So I'm going to go out to search a service that I like to use. A lot of people dog me on it, but I'm going to go out to virustotal.com. Use VirusTotal. It's a pretty easy service, especially if you're dealing with PCAP files that you think that are embedded with malware. But I'm going to go out to VirusTotal. I can upload a file upwards in size of 128 megs. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to choose the file. So I'm going to add in that evidence2.pcap, and I'm going to have VirusTotal scan against that file. So it's going to run the hash, and it's going to say, hey, this has already been analyzed before. Let's just reanalyze it again. So it's going to look at that packet transfer. And what VirusTotal does is that it runs against the signature databases of most of your major antivirus clients that are out there, and looks at a detection ratio of whether or not that has malware in it. And what do we have here? It ran against 54 antivirus clients, and not a one of them detected any indications of malware in it. 0 of 54. So there's the indication that antivirus does jack squat against exploit kits, or at least this particular exploit kit. So this one flew under the radar. But we have our IDS alerts. If you're running Snort or Circata in the system, it picked up a couple alerts here. So I'm going to actually pick the Snort alert here. And it's kind of hard to click into. But let's go into, I think it's under, let me see here. It's under additional information. I can find the actual Snort alerts here. Yeah, here's the Snort alert. So if you go under File Detail and scroll down towards the bottom, it will show you what Snort flagged this PCAP against. And what do you see down there? Let me zoom in a little bit on that, see if I can zoom in on that text. Let me zoom in so you guys can see that a little bit better. Obviously my Control++ is not working well. There it is. So Snort picks up on a remote non-JavaScript file. It also picks up a Flash player object. So it looks like we've had, it's flagged based upon either a JavaScript issue and a Adobe Flash player issue. Now Suricata does a little bit better job in detection there, but it's enough for us to at least, it threw an error to us. Suricata says, hey, this is a nuclear exploit kit that's possibly getting us in this packet here. So it does a really good job of saying, hey, this is a drive-by exploit. It's being downloaded in this packet capture. Take a look at it a little bit deeper. More importantly than that, it also looks at suspicious domain traffic, suspicious IP space, a lot of stuff that the antivirus clients just don't care about. So now we can at least say, okay, maybe we're dealing with an exploit kit, and more importantly, we have a network Trojan and we have a nuclear exploit kit payload. So that puts us in a little bit better of a ballpark to know what kind of exploit kit we're up against. So pay attention to those if you're running Snort, if you're running Suricata. Suricata both of them do a pretty good job of picking this kind of stuff up. And if you're not running any IDS inside your network, shame on you guys. Try to at least deploy something at some point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to minimize. I'm going to go back to VirusTotal a little bit later, but with some other files. But I'm going to go back to Wireshark and let's break down this stuff here. So I want to see what files, and I want to see what the date and time of the activity is. So the bad part about Wireshark, remember from yesterday, it does not give me default times in the display listing. So one of the first things I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to Edit and Preferences, and I'm going to go to my columns, and I'm going to go ahead and add a time field. I'm just going to call this time, and I'm going to change that over to UTC. Let's just do UTC date and time. So I'm going to do year, month, date, and time. Add that in there. I'm going to drag it up to and I'm going to turn off that time, the format, the number format, the milliseconds format. So now I can see the timestamps in which it came in. So now I'm looking at this packet capture in a kind of a chronological form. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for any kind of DHCP or NetBIOS stats. So there's a couple of ways I can do that. I can look at UDP traffic, so I can do a UDP .port. I'm going to run a UDP.port. I'm going to do an EQ of 67. Anybody want to take a guess on what 67 is? What does port 67 in UDP do? Any kind of
DHCP request?
Yeah, it's DHCP request and response. So I can do 67 or 68, and what that will look and see or will determine, basically it will show the host name and the MAC address of DHCP request as it's picking up an IP address. We can also do an NBNS filter there and pick that up as well. Pretty much get the same result. So now I'm looking there and I can see that let's use 67 there. If I go down to, let's see, trying to find the actual, about halfway down to here where it actually sends a DHCP request, we have a Dell IP address that it picks up here. That's 6ABD, any of those packets there. So we're dealing with an IP address of 192.168.137.81. That's our user's IP in this case, based upon the DHCP address that was given to it. If we want to figure out what the name is of this particular PC in question, one thing I would probably look down here in the bootstrap and let's just see if it gives a domain name. the client identifier, or you can look at host name, and you can see the host name here. It identifies itself as Bartow PC. So that is our PC traffic. This is the culprit that downloaded the traffic. So Bartow PC is going to be the host name of the machine that took the DHCP address here. So if we need that later on for anything. Also, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look and see the web browsing traffic. That's a real useful thing to look for, especially if you're thinking that they may have picked it up from a bum web page. So I'm going to do an HTTP, and I'm going to do a .request. Now what this is going to do is this is going to look for any GET commands at any web page that we're looking for. So in this case, any time I've sent out an HTTP request asking for data from a website. So if I go down and start looking through the actual content here, I'm going to see about halfway down that it looks like they were going after some WordPress site, but about halfway down it looks like Wolfgang's Steakhouse is the place that these HTTP addresses that they're looking for. So down towards the bottom, what do you notice like right in the middle of this? I mean, you've got all this traffic going out to Wolfgang's, which is 211.111.221.233. But what happens down towards the bottom here? You see some stuff and some redirects that shouldn't belong there. And it goes back to 211.49.170.55. But what happens here? You have this 108.178.15.187 that pops up here. So what do you think happens here? What does your common sense tell you? If you know that you're up against an exploit kit, knowing what you know about exploit kits, what does it do? It takes you, either redirects you or starts downloading content from a compromised website. So what happened here is they went to a steakhouse website that had an exploit kit embedded into it. It redirected them to a malicious website and then downloaded an exploit kit onto the PC. So that 108.178 down there towards the bottom, that's our exploit kit site. So what I would recommend doing now is we can filter out from that traffic and see if we see anything. But let's see here. Before we do that, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So we can apply that as a filter. So now I'm looking at an IP destination of 108.178.15.187. But I want to look at not just the destination, I want to look at both up and down traffic. An easy way to do that is change DST to .addr, and that'll give us all the traffic up and down. Now, with all that happening now, I want you to scroll down through here. I want you to take a look at this whole transmission of traffic. So, in this case, you got a lot of really weird things that's going on here. Now, by default, I didn't turn on IP resolving. Sometimes I don't recommend it, but in this case, we're gonna resolve these IPs. So I'm gonna go to Edit and Preferences because I think that'll help us out a little bit. And let's go to, I can't remember exactly where it's at. It's there. Under Name Resolution, do a Resolve Network IP Addresses. So it actually, you can see the names of these addresses here. So that's under Edit, Preferences, and down under Name Resolution, resolve the network IP addresses. So it'll be a little easier on the eyes there. But look at this domain name. That's never good, right? That's not something you just type into the bar, right? They've been redirected into something a little malicious, right? So you see this ilacllama.us, and you can see now this is not good. This is not good at all. You just have this really long DNS, and what we call these are fast flux DNSs. So they're setting up a DNS, that makes no sense whatsoever, redirecting traffic to it, getting the stuff that they need, and then they take that DNS down. This is indicative of a lot of different types of exploit kits that we see served out. So it was there for one day and it disappeared the next. They'll put it up as another link. They'll use that same compromised site to redirect it to another fast flux DNS the next day. So, all right, so as you go down through here, you're going to find a lot of really bad stuff, and then you say, man, that's a lot of traffic there that we have to deal with. But at least we know that our exploit kit traffic, if you start to dig, man, you see like a flash exploit, you see a JavaScript, you see a GET request for this really weird looking HTML page. That's not good. You see some duplicate acknowledgement, spurious retransmission. There's really all kinds of crazy stuff. Now we're gonna do some carving of this content out. More specifically, we're going to let's follow the actual transmission of conversation. So I'm going to go to that filter, to that IP, right click it, and I'm going to follow the TCP stream. So this tells me some stuff. So what do I have here? And what do you think this kind of is there anything in here that may tell me some stuff otherwise? I have a JavaScript here. Why are we running JavaScript? So there's a lot of little things that we can see that's happening here, and I broke it down because you can spend hours upon hours looking at this, but this particular TCP stream. Remember, different streams of traffic are going to carry on different. Let's look and see that first time we see the I like llama show up. Let's go back to that.
Since it's name, does that mean this is still functional? In virus total?
No, not necessarily. The DNS may be. This may be still up, this particular steakhouse, but I think they scrubbed their traffic. But no, I would not. You're talking about like visiting that page. I would not visit VK. That's why I work in VMs. If I host the VM.
No, I wasn't saying to go there, but is it still valid because it resolved and virus total said it was still bad?
Well, what virus total said about the packet capture, it just looked at the residual information inside the PCAP file. So we're looking at historical data here.
I didn't know if you went and hunted out to see if it was still.
Not to my knowledge. I think it runs that PCAP against your snort alerts and what's there before. But you can see that, my goodness, when we get down to that, and I'm going to find the first instance that shows up, which is packet 2020. Let's go down to packet 2020. I think that's where it first shows up. Let's right-click that and follow that TCP stream. Hopefully I can see the whole conversation there. Might not be able to see it, but tough time digging out what I'm looking for. Go a little bit deeper down into the where they actually accept the. So in this, you do a little background on nuclear exploit kits. What happens is they're sent to a landing page. That landing page runs the exploit, which is a Java, a Flash, and a Silverlight exploit, and then it generates the malware payload. Okay, so we can go through and dig, and I can go through and packet by packet. But really, what's happening here is I'll show you what we're going up against here. So in this case, this is what our TCP stream. If you dig out the right stream of packets, and I'll break it down for you. So after it gets that GET request for that specific packet, there's a flash exploit that the nuclear EK sends. So in that HTTP request header, you're going to see the version of the flash player used by the vulnerable computer. Now in this case, it's using Flash 11.9 or whatever version that it's running. So are we dealing with an outdated version of Flash here? It's a little bit older. I mean, you know, of course we're dealing with an older exploit kit here. This is one that dropped in 2015. But, you know, long story short, it's basically preying on a vulnerable version of Flash. This is why I don't like Flash at all. But, so it looked at Flash, it found vulnerable Flash, and it was basically used by that vulnerable computer to start to download that exploit kit. Now, for the Flash exploit, you can either search for like a ZWS or a CWS in the first 3 characters after the HTTP response header. So, in this case, you know, there's little pieces of things you can look for if you do your homework on how Flash exploits work. But in this case, I could just search for a ZWS header and find, okay, this is where the Flash exploit pushed itself across. This particular exploit kit also preys upon a Silverlight exploit, which if you guys have ever dealt with Microsoft Silverlight, it also does the same thing. So in this case, it also sends a Silverlight exploit, which, if you know anything about Silverlight exploits, they are basically archives. So what they do is they send the DLL almost like a zip file, which means you can pretty much package anything you want to into those DLL files. So you're going to see after the first 2 characters after that HTTP response, you're going to see like almost like a PK with the file embedded into it. In this case, there's a DLL file that was downloaded along with that packet transfer, and you're going to see the names of the files or the names of the file or files in this archive. In this case, it's just using a DLL. It's going to install that DLL on the computer, and then it's going to start to unpackage itself and run whatever it needs to run, whether it be a rootkit or an exploit or whatnot. So if you go further down into that packet, the actual web address is what we were searching against earlier, that host. This is the hidden malware payload file. So nuclear, or at least the nuclear exploit kit, which a lot of the exploit kits I've seen as of late are nothing more than just modified nuclear EKs. So you're going to see this same kind of stuff. They've been hiding their payload within these ASCII strings. Now you're going to see like repeating letters or patterns of letters, and these ASCII strings are basically going to have like XOXOXO. And it's also hidden with that ASCII string of like CUKK, which is pretty much, you know, indicative. So you could search against that as well. You can do like a frame contains CUUKAXKN, which is what I searched against, and I saw that reoccurring letters and numbers. So any of that stuff, if you think that your company or whoever you're working with may be getting hit by an EK, search out for these kind of things, because those are going to be the little pieces of evidence that may, okay, let's flip back around and see what we're up against. So that's pretty much, you know, the breakdown in Wireshark. That's where we have to set the stop point in Wireshark and say, okay, now we're dealing with nuclear. This is a nuclear exploit kit. Let's take the files out and see what we're up against. Let me back out of this PowerPoint here. We'll go back into Sift. What do we have? 348. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is, because I know that we're dealing with malware here, I'm going to do a file, and I'm going to do an export objects, and I'm going to export out all the HTTP objects. This can tell you a lot as well, because you're going to see all of those files I just had in those screenshots in there. So you're going to see all the Flash exploits, all those random strings I just pulled up. You see those in the files. What we can do is we can export out all of these files and then run them against VirusTotal and see what we get as a hit. So let's just export them all out. So I'm going to save those onto a folder onto my desktop. I'm going to call it nuclear. Just click on open. Some files couldn't be saved. Not a big deal. So I'm going to look in that nuclear folder and hopefully it exported out some files. So we do have some things that we may be able to scan against in here. And hopefully, hopefully one of these might give us a little better indication of what might be happening here. So I'm going to pick one of these. I'm going to bring in the virus total now and see if I get a better result in the scan. So that's the ones that I just exploited out in nuclear. I'm going to go in and let's just, for giggles, let's pick the one that looks the weirdest, right? That's a good starting place. Click on open, scan it. Always pick on the odd looking one. All right. It's better than 0, right? 2 out of 54.
Unless it's the IDS.
It's possible. So at least 1 of 2, but that tells us we might be dealing, so in this case it's scanning more, but there's your Trojan. That's your package Trojan in that exploit kit. So, if you can at least start to determine, all right, I know now that if I went back through and I scanned all these files, I'm going to scan that zip file just for the fun of it. It's not so much of going in and scanning these individual files. You can use whatever program you want to scan these individual files. You can run them against a virus scanner. And you can see there, man, it lights up like a Christmas tree. 31 of 53 antivirus programs identified that as malware. So that's a zip file that Wireshark detected. So let's see what this says. That's definitely an exploit. There's not a single one. A couple of antivirus. Microsoft just flags that with a green light there. There's like...
Malware by it.
Yeah. It's scary. Like, I've had a couple of people that we ran these through, and like Kaspersky identifies it as an exploit, but, Malwarebytes doesn't do anything with it, and Symantec green lights it. What's your most popular anti-malware program out there? Symantec. That's what we use at Marshall, and I'm like, not good. But, there's your Trojan package right there that came with that exploit kit. So this is a process, if you're dealing with malware, I like VirusTotal. I really do. It's just a good program to run stuff in.
You do know that it keeps a copy of it.
It does.
And if you have a login, you can pull out data.
Yeah,
So if you send something
that maybe has
proprietary information,
Right.
and you thought it might be virus, but it isn't, and now they have your proprietary information in a
with
file.
logins and stuff like that. So be
Yeah.
careful. Yeah, that's a great point to bring up.
You can't get contracts for private access.
Really.
Yeah, there are other like threat analysis
what's
and
the
malware
other-
tools like malRW or was it malware?
Yeah, there's
or
a
other
bunch
like
of them.
entire like behavioral analysis tools and stuff.
Do you guys use them at all? Bring in is there any like special one that you guys like to use?
We use government access.
Yeah.
So we have access to like.
Well,
But as
essentially,
an academic perspective, you have the same access we have to our
Yeah.
local level. We
Really?
have access to MCAP.
I have to spend some more time, and I think if you get out of the game for like a month, these sites pop up. So I'll have to get that information from you because I'd like to scan a lot of these exploit kits that I pick up against all these different utilities and see what the difference is between them. That's
Are
a
you guys
good place.
Are you guys a part of the MSI the ISAC?
I have interacted with them before, but for totally different, not for this kind of stuff, no. I would, no, it's something we probably need to get involved in, most definitely.
Yeah, you will be now.
What's that?
You'll get a phone call. You get an invite.
Nice. Always good. You can see there, if you do have, potential malware, you can scan against that. Second thing that I gave to you guys as well, there was a nuclear PC file. And what this was the files that the computer forensic examiner extracted off of the PC. These were taken directly based upon registry mods. So the person who got the snort alert went and seized the PC, and this is what they exported from the PC. So if you do have the luxury to go back and scan those files, you can certainly do that as well to determine, hey, okay, let's see what kind of files we're up against here, because antivirus didn't flag these. So if I scan against any of those files, I can I get a fairly decent alert that we're dealing with malware. Let's see what this says. So there's your Trojan script, your nuclear exploit. So this is the entire nuclear exploit unpackaged on the machine. And if you go back through and systematically run all 4 of those files, you'll see that all of them will tell you something a little bit different. So be careful about pulling these over in your Windows machine, just disclaimer. But this is your flash exploit that was unpackaged on the machine, Shockwave Flash, that's what the SWF stands for. So it picks that up. So there's your flash exploit, 21 of 54 detection ratio. And then the last file, there was a temp file that was kind of popped down in there. File number 3 that I labeled it as, and if you reanalyze that, there's another piece of malware there. I'm not sure what they're using that one for. I have to do a little bit of digging on that to see what that is, but obviously it is malware. So by all of the digging of these pieces of information, was able to determine that we were dealing with a nuclear exploit kit and where it came from. So you had a user who had went to a steakhouse website, got redirected to a malicious website, downloaded an exploit kit, PC is infected. So that's really a common occurrence there. So that's where you go back to security awareness education and say, hey, Miss Billy, you went to this website for this steakhouse. This is what happened. If something like this happens, you can't immune your users from going to an innocuous steakhouse site. That's not your employee's fault. You know, they were doing their job. The security awareness training says, okay, if you see something like that, what do you train them to do when something like that happens? You know, do you tell them to unplug their machine from the network, which is a good security awareness training event here. So, you know, that's where you go and talk to Bill Gardner, and he'll get you hooked up. Him and Amanda Berlin both are here, aren't they? They were at the security awareness training book. That's where your investigation stops and awareness training starts. So really, I'm a big advocate of security awareness training, by the way. Let's just say that, Bill, on the camera. Shameless book plug. The last thing I want to cover, since we have just a few minutes left, and I think I can do this in about 5 minutes, I wrote a script a while back for our CCDC folks that essentially they ran into issues where they had a tough time remembering commands. And I know from my perspective, whenever I'm dealing with scripts, especially shell scripts, and I had the answers there too. That's the date and time of the activity. We went through all that together. The MAC address of the computer, which is easily found, and there's our compromised website. So I forgot to flash that up for you guys. So the last thing we were dealing with CCDC, which is, if you guys aren't familiar with CCDC, it's the Mid-Atlantic Cyber Defense Competition, our student competition. Where we compete against other schools in security. It's almost a blue team exercise. And one of the things we have to do in that exercise is we have to harden the Linux server down. And one of the things we have to do before we harden that Linux server is we have to determine what that particular server is reporting to us. And, you know, all the time, you know, I'm always collecting Linux and Mac local system info. I just, you know, go through and search things. And I found, man, if you're like me, I cannot remember commands. You know, I retain about maybe 1/1,000,000% of terminal commands. I don't know if it's just all the Monster I drink or what, And I really do not like Python scripts that require about 1,600 add-on modules in order to get the script to run. Do you guys, is that just irk me too? Or does it just irk you guys? I don't know, but it's like, okay,
If you write
here's
them
a
not to do that, then they won't do it.
That's true. It's like, okay, I have this Python script that'll give you the system name, but you have to install this module and this module and this module. And if you load in this module, but then you have to install like pill or something like that to get geolocation info. It's like a bad habit that a lot of people get into in writing. I teach shell scripting, and I'm getting I like just the idea of shell scripting mainly because we're kind of getting in an era now where Microsoft's going to support Bash. We really need to champion and resurge shell scripting. Make shell scripting great again, right? It's great. It happens to Sift. There it is. So one of the scripts that I wrote for our CCDC guys, and I said I'd share it with you guys in this session. It basically is a fully encapsulated Bash script that works in a menu format that doesn't require any add-on modules. You can just pull the shell script down and run it as is. You don't have to do anything special about it. So you can either download it, you can clone it, or download. I'm going to just do a simple download it into terminal. And I'm going to CD to the desktop. So you can put this anywhere that you would want to get that information. So I'm going to do a get clone, and I'm going to give you the address in the PowerPoint. So I'm going to just pull down. I'm going to change this sysout to the actual shell script, and I'm going to download that. Oh, got to sudo it. Oh, it's flagging for email address. Always gets me there. Should be pulling that down. Maybe the fact that I'm running HTTPS. I try to create an empty directory.
So you delete the old.
I have to delete an empty directory. I'm going to just go back into my home directory. Go back that command. So I don't know why it's asking for GitHub. Oh well. What's that?
Web.
I'll go back and pull it down off the web. I always want to be the cool guy that tries to pull it down on the interface, but not a big deal. So I'm going to go ahead and just download that zip file. I feel like this is why Bill's the same way. We never run live demos for reason. Because when you're in class like this, nothing ever works. Have you ever noticed that? Nothing ever works in a live environment. Like you can test it 100 million different times and it never works. But I'll give this to you guys so you can play around with it. What I would recommend doing is let's pull that master file out. Here it is. And I'll just pull the actual shell script out. So in there somewhere there is a it should be just called Bash. You can run it based on Bash. If you haven't done anything with Bash before, I would recommend sitting through a session on Bash scripting. And what I did is I put together a little tool called SysScout, which basically they can run in a terminal environment. It's menu scripted, so meaning that if I need to get the operating system info, I can just run a number 1. They can't kill that off, so if I'm dealing with a red team hacker on the other end, they can't literally go in and control-Z me. I have it pretty much set where it can't kill off. But I can get information about what version of Linux I'm running, what operating system version. I can look at the system time. So it tells me what time in UTC, what the date, what the local machine time is. I can look at the host and DNS info, which is, in this case, it gives me the domain name. In this case, it shows me the loopback IP. So sometimes that doesn't always work as planned. But I get down here to the network info, which will give me the IP address of the interface that I'm looking at and what interfaces I have. It also reports back to me the MAC and the hardware addresses of the machine. So I can run that as well. Another thing that I always talk with our CCDC guys is to look and see who's online, who's in your box right now. So I also put a number 5 option in there that basically ran who's logged into this machine. In this case, it's just me, but I can look and see, if someone's shell has got a shell or has SSH in this box, I can pretty much determine who that is. I can look at the last logged in users, so if someone came in and then left, when they came in, what time they came in. So that's a neat little option if you guys want to triage. You can also look at memory information. Now, as far as memory information, the easiest command to run in Linux is top. The problem that I have with top or PS, top in general, unless you freeze top, it usually just fluxes what's at the top of the command. So, common practice will tell you that if a hacker is in your machine, they're utilizing buffer and memory, and you're going to see their processes bubble up to the top. Well, the problem was with that, if that hacker leaves out of your network and you're running top, they're going to be gone and you're just looking at innocuous processes. So what I did is I ran, and I'll show you the shell script in the guts of it here. If you run an option 7, what I did is I ran the top 5 memory utilizing processes. So it freezes the processes at that moment. And you can see at this point, Wireshark is our top running process, or at least takes up the top 4 and 5 running processes in this particular virtual machine. So, if you're getting bombarded with, if they're running something against your network, you can freeze it at that point and look at it. And then you can just exit out of the script. So the reason I gave this to you guys and gave you the place to look to get it is if these commands don't work for you, the nice part is this is just a bunch of shell script commands. You can change what's in these menus. So, these are simple commands. Like for the IP address info, I do an IP-4 address show to show the IP version 4 addresses. For the top 5 memory utilizing processes, I can't remember this off the top of my head, but I ran a PS AUXF. I pipelined it, sorted it with a -NRK and showed a 4 there, and then I ran a head to show the top 5. I can't remember that off the top of my head every day, so it's easier for me to just bring in the shell script and run it. But this is a good little utility as far as menu-wise. Download it, modify it as you need to. You can run it just as a little system scout tool. I use that, and we also have a network scout tool that we developed over on Python. I don't know if you guys are familiar with our two former students. We're going to pick up development on Network Scout next year. We're going to try to put System Scout in it, and we're going to put Network Scout, and we're going to try to put a graphic interface to all this. So that's our next phase in Network Scout, is to make it more graphical friendly or terminal friendly. So, hang tight. This is kind of stuff in the works. Shell scripting is, if you're really interested in it, something to pick up and use a little bit further. But that script is yours now. It's free for the taking. So that's on my GitHub page. And certainly follow me on GitHub as well. I'm putting up new scripts. I used to be real greedy with my scripts and not share them with anybody, and I thought, man, it's stupid. I need to start releasing these things out to people, so I'm going to start posting them up there. So
Should have a kick.
Should have a what?
A kick for users. Because that'd be a faster way than trying to type if you're trying to figure out where
True.
they are. You can just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I haven't really been using GitHub long, but it's a good idea. So, as far as the packet captures, take those with you. Use them as need be. practice and play on them. Definitely pick up more resources. If you have any questions on any kind of PCAP files or anything like that, feel free to get in contact with me. I know that's a lot of information to throw at you at one time, but I tried to, take a very high level, process. This is an art form. Malware analysis is an art form. There's more to just this. We just did nothing more than packet analysis. If you want to get more into, looking at stored alerts, there's so many more avenues on this. I would definitely recommend going out and jumping onto malware traffic analysis and picking up their files and playing around with those. They put PCAPs out there all the time with breakdowns of these scenarios just like this. So that's where I pick up a lot of my know-how from. So, questions? All right. I think we're going to call it a wrap there. It's went about 9 minutes later than I said I would, but give you time to go over and do what you need to do. Pick up some of the last sessions of the day, and whatever, make you a Blinky Light badge, and take part and have fun in the conference. And grab a lanyard, too, while you're on the way out. Take them back to work with you. Try to get rid of them before the end of the conference. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.